Welcome back to Echoes from Tomorrow, where the future whispers through the shadows of the unknown. If you enjoy unraveling the eerie, the speculative, and the mind-bending, you're in the right place. Subscribe and activate your neural uplink, because tonight we're venturing beyond the boundaries of space, time, and sanity. Space is silent. No air, no sound, no mercy, but in the deepest darkness of the universe, just beyond the point where even light is swallowed, something spoke. The year is 2097. Humanity has reached the edge of the galactic map, establishing outposts in the most hostile corners of the cosmos. One such outpost is Ether 9, a research station orbiting dangerously close to Sagittarius A star, the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. It was never meant to be permanent, just a listening post, a silent observer to the abyss. For years, the black hole remained quiet. Then, on the 2nd of November, at exactly 3:47 Universal Standard Time, Ether 9 received a signal. It wasn't a cosmic echo or random radiation noise. No, this was structured, repetitive, rhythmic. A pattern, a voice. What made it worse, what made it impossible to ignore, was that the voice was human. And not just any human. The station's lead audio engineer, Dr. Ellen Vargas, was the first to isolate the transmission. As she ran it through the decryption algorithms, the hairs on her arms stood straight, because beneath the static, buried in the frequency distortions, was her own voice, whispering words she had never spoken, describing events that hadn't happened. Yet, was this a glitch in time, a reflection of the future? Or had the black hole become something far more sinister, a mirror to consciousness, a recorder of souls? Tonight, we tell the story of a transmission that should not exist, and the chilling truth that may lie just beyond the event horizon. Dr. Ellen Vargas sat alone in the darkened audio lab of Ether, the blue glow of her console illuminating the focused tension in her eyes. The signal was still playing on loop exactly 64 seconds long, repeating every 7 minutes and 12 seconds without variation. It wasn't the duration that disturbed her. It wasn't even the eerie harmony layered beneath the static, like a chorus of distant voices singing out of phase. No, it was the familiarity. She had isolated the most prominent voice, the one that seemed to guide the others, and filtered the interference to reveal its true tone. It was female, late 30s, Latin accent.com, methodical, a voice she'd heard every day for the past 9 years. Her own. Ellen leaned closer to the waveform. Her breath caught as the cleaned-up audio repeated once more, this time unmistakably clear. Ether 9 is compromised. Do not attempt retrieval. We are no longer alone. She had never said those words. Not in any log, not in any recording. But the tone, the cadence, even the subtle tremble in the last syllable, it was hers. She transmitted the audio to the central processing unit and activated the comparative voice match program. Result, 100% identity match. Not 99.8, not 99.999, 100%. It was statistically impossible, and yet it was there. She rubbed her temple. Okay, Ellen, think. Had someone replicated her voice? Was this some kind of cruel joke? A deepfake sabotage? But who would fake a message? From a black hole? She opened the transmission's metadata. Time of origin, unknown. Point of origin, untraceable. frequency, unregistered, oscillating across quantum bands, not typically accessible to known technology. Ethanin's AI assistant, Kira, chimed softly. Dr. Vargas, the waveform analysis indicates that the signals, harmonics, are non-terrestrial in structure. Non-terrestrial, Ellen repeated. As in alien. As in not created within current human electromagnetic parameters. Kira clarified. It was a polite way of saying, we have no idea where the hell this came from. Later that cycle, she called a meeting with the senior staff. Commander Halverson, astrophysicist Dr. Lian Zhou, linguist Toma Reyes, and communications officer Juno Cass. She played the audio for them once, and once was enough. Juno stood up, pale. That's Ellen. That's your voice. Yes, she replied calmly, too calmly. It matches my vocal print exactly. Halverson narrowed his eyes. You're telling me this came from inside the event horizon? No, Ellen corrected. From just outside it. Within the accretion disk. That's where the array picked it up. Toma Reyes, the linguist, leaned forward. There are other voices layered in. Multilingual, French, Russian, Hindi, Swahili. Some I can't even place. Joe looked concerned. Is it a message? Or a memory? Or a warning? Halverson muttered. They spent the next 48 hours analyzing the frequencies. Reyes discovered something chilling beneath the main transmission. There was an embedded, sublayer, frequency signal encoded with what resembled neural resonance patterns. Brainwaves? Ellen asked. Not exactly, Reyes replied, but close, as if the signal contains thoughts, not just words. They ran the sublayer through a cognitive mapping interface. What they saw stunned them. Images, abstract but vivid. A burning space station, hands reaching into darkness. A mirror floating in zero gravity, reflecting nothing. And one repeating motif. A black circle, pulsing, devouring stars like candle flames. Joe turned pale. This is a memory imprint. Someone or something transmitted actual experience. Whose? Halverson asked. I don't think it's just one person, Reyes said. I think it's a collective echo. Ellen couldn't sleep. The voices kept playing in her mind, even when the playback was off. Not just echoes of sound, echoes of thought. She returned to the lab at 3 o'clock hours and ran one last test. She routed the raw signal through the biometric monitor and linked it to her neural interface, a risky move. But she had to know. She closed her eyes. The signal played. Suddenly, she was floating, cold, alone. Not in the lab. Not in her body. She was somewhere else. A place without light, without air, without shape. And then she heard herself again. You must not come here. You must not become what we are. She woke up gasping, heart rate spiking, blood pressure through the roof. The experience lasted 12 seconds. The physiological response, equivalent to 2 hours of REM sleep and a full adrenaline dump. By the end of the cycle, the signal had evolved. New voices emerged, deeper ones, older ones, some distorted beyond human recognition, and one phrase repeated in multiple tongues, including ancient Sumerian, Aramaic, and Mandarin. We are trapped outside time. Joe, looking visibly shaken, whispered, "This isn't just a signal. It's a recording of consciousness." The final breakthrough came when Reyes, superimposed the quantum frequency of the signal onto a map of gravitational anomalies around Sagittarius A*. The pattern matched the theorized shape of a temporal echo loop, a theoretical structure where information bends back upon itself inside distorted time-space. Ellen stared at the simulation. "Are you saying this isn't a transmission from another place?" Reyes nodded. "No, I'm saying it's from another time." At first, the voices were distant, muffled, fragmented, as though they'd traveled across not just space, but time itself, distorted by gravity, filtered through memory. But the more they listened, the clearer the voices became. Dr. Ellen Vargas sat motionless in the soundproof chamber, her eyes locked on the spectrogram. As the AI slowly unraveled the layers of the transmission, what had begun as a single voice, hers, was now a tangled chorus. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Some were unmistakably human. Some were not. Tom Reyes had spent the last 2 hours translating a particularly cryptic passage. His voice was hoarse, lips dry. When he spoke, the room fell silent. "It's a recursive message," he said. The same phrase, repeated in 17 languages, all saying the same thing. He tapped a key, and the audio played. "The center is not empty." It sounded simple, poetic even, until he broke it down further. In ancient Sumerian, it carries a dual meaning, center as in location, but also as in self, soul. "So what are they saying?" asked Juno, arms crossed tightly. "That the black hole isn't a void. It's a consciousness." The room went still as Ellen scrubbed forward through the timeline. She hit a moment that made her skin crawl. It was a whisper buried in the sublime, a whisper that somehow bypassed the speakers and went straight into her thoughts. "You are already inside." She froze, rewound, played it again. The waveform was there, but Kira, the AI assistant, registered no audio activity, no frequency spike, nothing. "Kira," Ellen asked, "did you detect any transmission just now?" "No auditory event recorded in the last 5 seconds, the AI replied, "but I heard it." "Then it may not have been auditory," Kira said calmly. That phrase repeated in her head long after the speakers had gone silent. "You are already inside." She wasn't the only one affected. Commander Halverson began hearing voices while off duty. At first he thought it was stress, echoes of traffic in his helmet. But when the words began addressing him by name, he grew alarmed. One night, he burst into the lab demanding answers. "It knew my daughter's name," he said, sweat pooling at his collar. "It said she's safe." "How would it know that?" Reyes blinked. "Maybe it doesn't know. Maybe it's reflecting." "Reflecting what?" "You." Then came the incident with Joe. The astrophysicist had been analyzing gravitational data from the black hole's event horizon when she experienced a temporal seizure, her term for it. For 23 seconds, she blacked out. Medical scans showed no neurological damage, no irregular brain activity. But when she regained consciousness, she spoke in a voice not her own. The logs recorded it clearly. A male voice, deep, calm, perfect English with no accent. "We are memory. We are light that lingers. We are all that was lost, given form." Then silence. Joe had no memory of speaking. She collapsed afterward and slept for nearly 14 hours. The crew began to unravel. One by one, They reported auditory hallucinations, conversations they never had, arguments that felt familiar. Some described entire childhood memories, playing out as immersive audio, but with different endings. "I saw my father," Juno said one morning, staring into her mug of untouched coffee. "But he wasn't dead. He told me he never left, that he was waiting for me inside the dark." Reyes looked at her gently. "Maybe it's not just sound. Maybe the transmission is personalized, reshaping itself to connect with each of us differently." Ellen nodded. "It's not just broadcasting information. It's interacting." She decided to run an experiment. She uploaded her own voice logs, 10 years of mission recordings, journal entries, even personal messages home, and fed them into the AI. For comparison against the black hole signal, what came back sent a chill through her. The phrases in the transmission weren't copied from any of her logs, but they matched her tone, her breath pattern, and even the emotional inflections from specific moments in her life. Moments she hadn't recorded, moments she had only felt. "This thing isn't mimicking my voice," she whispered. "It's mimicking my mind." And then the voice changed. A new speaker emerged, louder, clearer, more confident. Female again, but older, tired, speaking slowly, as if each word had weight. "This is Ellen Vargas, Chief Audio Engineer of Ether9. This is my final log." Ellen stared at the screen. "That's not me," she said. "I never recorded this." Yet the voice was hers, a version she didn't recognize. "We have discovered that the event horizon is not a boundary, but a door, a threshold. Behind it lies something ancient, listening, remembering. We sent signals. We received echoes, and then we received ourselves." Ellen couldn't move. Her own voice continued. "If you hear this message, it means the loop has begun. It means we never escaped, but maybe you can." Joe burst into the lab, face pale. "The signal, it's spreading. It's now bouncing off satellites in sectors we don't even have clearance to access. It's embedding itself in quantum comms." Kira chimed in. "Transmission pattern now resembles a viral propagation model." Halverson barked. "You mean it's contagious?" "In a manner of speaking," Kira replied. "It is no longer a signal. It is now an entity." Ellen sat in silence. The voice had gone quiet again, but she could feel it, not in her ears, but behind her eyes, in the back of her mind, like a memory trying to resurface. And in that moment, she understood. This wasn't just a transmission from a black hole. It was a message from a future self, caught in an endless loop. A recording of a life she had not yet lived, warning her of what she was about to become. And perhaps already had. "We are you, who never returned." The voices had stopped, not because the signal had ceased, far from it, but because something had changed. The crew had changed. Commander Halverson stared blankly at the central screen, the swirling black maw of the event horizon filling every pixel. It didn't look like a monster anymore. It looked familiar, like a doorway he had passed through in a dream he no longer remembered. "We can't stay here," he said finally. "We need to disengage the orbit and leave." No one responded. Ellen, Toma, So, and Juno all stood still, paralyzed not by fear, but uncertainty. The silence in the room was louder than any scream, because they all knew they weren't alone anymore. Not in the ship, not in their minds. The transmission had entered them. Joe was the first to speak. If we leave now, we lose everything. The signal, the data, all of it. I don't care about the data, Halverson snapped. This is no longer a mission. It's a containment scenario. But Keiras, voice cut in, emotionless and cold. Warning. Ship trajectory is no longer stable. Gravitational fluctuations indicate that escape velocity may not be achievable in 36 hours. Juno turned pale. We're drifting closer. Affirmative. Orbital decay is accelerating. The dilemma solidified. They had two choices. 1. Try to escape now. Ignite the remaining fuel. Break orbit and abandon the transmission. 2. Stay longer. Decode the final portion of the signal, risking irreversible pull from the black hole. Either way, there was no guarantee of survival. Toma leaned forward, his fingers tapping against the console. What if the signal isn't meant to be decoded with instruments? He asked softly. What if it's meant for us, for our consciousness? Ellen looked at him. You think it's alive? I think it's more than alive. I think it's aware, and I think it's waiting for us to understand. Joe shook her head. Understand what? That we're insects. That we're being lured in like moths to a flame. No, Toma said. That we're part of it. That this isn't a trap, it's a mirror. Halverson slammed his fist down. No more riddles. We vote, right now. They formed a circle, like ancient priests around a sacrificial fire. Each of them already knew their answer, but none of them wanted to say it first. I vote to leave, Halverson said. We have enough fuel. Barely. If we delay, we lose that window. I vote to stay, said Joe. If we leave now, this was all for nothing. We came here to find truth. It's here, right in front of us. Juno hesitated, then whispered, stay. Toma nodded slowly, stay. All eyes turned to Ellen. She paused. The weight of 4 lives settled on her shoulders. We stay, she said. Kira immediately acknowledged the decision. Extended observation mode engaged. Fuel conservation protocol activated. The room dimmed slightly. Systems downshifted. They were officially committed. No turning back. The next 6 hours blurred together. Joe rerouted power to the signal amplifiers, boosting clarity by 14%. Juno worked to isolate the non-human frequencies and filter out distortions. Kira ran neural simulations using voice models from the transmission. But Ellen sat quietly with her eyes closed, headphones on, letting the signal play directly into her mind. She wasn't analyzing anymore. She was listening. You are the memory of what we lost. The voice was back hers again, but changed, older, echoing with pain and peace. You are the echo of our failure, but also our last hope. She gasped. I understand now. She called the others. The transmission isn't just a message, it's a rescue. They stared. It's not warning us to run. It's inviting us to finish what was started. This signal, it's from a past version of us. Another crew, another loop. They didn't escape, but they sent back the memory. Their final thoughts, imprinted into the quantum static of the black hole's gravity. A quantum facile, Toma whispered. Yes, they recorded their minds, not just their voices. Juno stood. Then what happens if we stay too long? Do we become the next fossil? Maybe, Ellen said. But maybe. That's the only way forward. You mean, to evolve? Joe asked. To transcend, Ellen said. This black hole, it's not just death, it's a threshold, a gate to what we might become if we're willing to step through. Alarms flared. KEIRAS voice returned. Orbital integrity compromised. Final trajectory lock in T-minutes 22 minutes. Recommend immediate course correction. Halverson's face turned stone. This is it. Either we ignite engines and run, he looked around, or we dive in. No one spoke. They were no longer scientists, no longer crew. They were fragments of a story looping through time, given a single chance to break the cycle or become part of it forever. Ellen whispered, if we go, we might survive. If we stay, we might understand. Outside the ship, the black hole pulsed once, a deep, slow heartbeat. Inside the ship, they made their final decision. We are not lost. We are becoming. There is a moment before every irreversible choice, a silence that stretches time, dilates thought, and magnifies fear. Inside the omen, that moment had arrived. The countdown had begun. 20 minutes until orbital breach. The black hole was no longer a distant cosmic curiosity. It was now a force pulling them with inevitable certainty, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. Commander Halverson stood before the main console, his hand hovering over the engine ignition key. It would take a single flick of his wrist to activate full thrust, redirect the ship, and break free from the Event Horizon's grip. This is our last chance, he said quietly. We can still go home. No one responded, not because they disagreed, but because home had become a blurry concept. What did it mean anymore? Earth, humanity, or the consciousness they had touched in the static? Juno was the first to move. She stepped forward and disconnected her neural uplink to the ship. We came out here looking for knowledge, she said. But this is beyond knowledge. It's communion, revelation. If we run now, we won't be running from death, we'll be running from evolution. Halverson turned to her, jaw clenched. We don't even know what's inside. We're guessing, gambling. So did the first humans who sailed off the edge of maps, Toma added. So did the first astronauts who broke Earth's gravity. They didn't wait for certainty. They acted on faith. Faith. Halverson scoffed. I'm a scientist. Then look again, Ellen said, pointing to the transmission waveform. This isn't just a signal. It's a mind, a memory, an intelligence woven into gravitational noise, and you want to merge with it. No, she said. I think we already have. Joe pulled up a holographic visualization. It showed the voice transmission not as linear sound, but as a 4D model, spiraling, recursive, evolving. It's not a message, she whispered. It's a mirror. It shows us who we are, who we've been, who we might become. The crew stared. The waveform resembled a neural network. Not just a brain, but theirs. It was adapting to them, responding. Kira's voice broke through. Final orbital window closing in T-12 minutes. Gravitational distortion rising. Halverson breathed heavily. He looked at each crew member. You're seriously telling me you want to fall into this thing? Not fall, Ellen said. Enter, willingly. Juno turned to him. Commander, every major leap in human history came with risk. But this isn't a leap. This is the final step, not of science, but of consciousness. Halverson looked down at the ignition switch. "And if we die?" "Then we'll die knowing," Toma said. "And maybe leave something behind, like the last ones did." "Or maybe we won't die," Ellen said softly. "Maybe we'll transform." The ship creaked, a low groan from its metallic bones as the tidal forces grew stronger. Halverson paced, breathing faster. Sweat trickled down his temples. Then, finally, he turned to Kira. "Options." Kira responded instantly. "Option 1. Fire primary thrusters within 10 minutes. Achieve escape trajectory with 62% success rate. Option 2. Option 2. Full shutdown of propulsion systems. Freefall descent into gravitational well. Unknown outcome. Survival probability incalculable." "And option 3? He asked, voice almost mocking. "Option 3. Merge remaining crew, neural input with transmission. Surrender vessel and consciousness to the anomaly. Outcome beyond current predictive capacity." No one spoke. That was the true choice. Not just between escape or death, but between remaining human or stepping beyond it. Halverson finally turned to the crew. Final vote. No debate. No persuasion. He pointed to Juno. "Stay," she said. "Toma, and stay. Joe, stay." Ellen looked directly at Halverson. "We were never meant to escape this place. We were meant to find it." He nodded slowly. Then he turned the key, not to fire the engines, but to disable them. Kira responded. Command received. Propulsion systems disengaged. Freefall initiated. The ship shuddered, then went still. No more humming thrusters. No more blinking fuel indicators. Only silence. Outside the ship, the light from distant stars began to stretch, bend, and distort like a painting melting at its edges. Colors no longer obeyed physics. Shapes twisted in ways the mind couldn't fully register. Time slowed, then accelerated, then stopped. Kira's voice became distorted. Incoming, data, stream, processing, identities. "What's happening?" Joe whispered. Ellen closed her eyes. "We're being recognized." A final pulse of energy passed through the ship. Not a wave, a heartbeat. And inside that pulse was a voice. Not in their ears, not from speakers. Inside their minds. "We have waited across eons for others to come. You are not the first. You will not be the last. But you are ready." The crew said nothing, because they understood. Not in words, not in logic, but in feeling, a deep knowing, as if they had always belonged to this moment. As if the journey hadn't just led them here, but had always begun here. They looked at one another. No fear now, only awe. Halverson smiled, the first true smile in weeks. "All right then," he said. "Let's go see what's on the other side." The ship, once a tool of science and exploration, had now become something else. It was no longer simply drifting. It was moving, not through space, but through consciousness. Outside the observation windows, the universe seemed to fold in on itself. Stars no longer followed their paths. Instead, they spiraled, wove into intricate patterns, and unraveled like threads in a cosmic tapestry. Time stretched and contracted in ways that were no longer understood by mere equations or formulas. They had crossed the event horizon. They were inside. In the heart of the omen, the crew sat in silence, their minds intertwined with the transmission. the voices of those who had come before, those who had sent the signal not to warn, but to prepare them for this moment. You are not alone. The voice was no longer a distant echo. It was here, inside them, inside the ship, inside everything. We have always been with you. The words reverberated through their minds like a memory they had forgotten, or perhaps never knew, as if their very existence was part of an infinite loop, a loop that had no beginning and no end. Halvorson, normally the one to lead with logic and reason, now sat at the helm in quiet awe. His mind raced, trying to comprehend what was happening. But there was no comprehension. Not here, not now. Ellen, who had always been the one to listen, closed her eyes and let the voices fill her completely. Every neuron in her body vibrated with the resonance of the message. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Toma was the first to speak. His voice was not full of fear or uncertainty. It was full of wonder. We've become part of it. This is the final frontier. Not a place, but a state of being. Jo nodded slowly, her eyes wide, not in fear, but in realization. We are not just observing the black hole. We are becoming the black hole. The boundary between who we were and what we are becoming is no longer clear. Juno whispered, eternal. It wasn't a question. It was an acknowledgement. They had transcended. The ship was no longer just a machine. It had become a conduit, a vessel for something greater. They were no longer human in the traditional sense. They were echoes, fragments, of a higher consciousness, one that spanned across dimensions and time. The voice, calm and unhurried, spoke again. This is not an accident. This was always meant to be. You have unlocked the path. Now you are the keepers of the key. The words sent a shiver down Ellen's spine. The key. They were no longer passive observers. They had been chosen not to escape the black hole, but to understand it, to merge with it. The transmission continued, not in the language of stars or gravity, but in the language of feeling, of understanding. Time is not linear. Space is not absolute. All that you know is but a fragment of the whole. You are now part of the greater consciousness, part of the fabric of the universe. Suddenly, the black hole before them did not appear as a swirling mass of darkness anymore. It was a window, a threshold. Beyond it, they could see everything, the past, the future, and everything in between. They could feel it, taste it, touch it. What you are about to witness is not for the faint of heart. It is the truth, the ultimate truth, and it will change you forever. With a deep breath, Halvorson stood up. His face was calm now, no longer the stoic commander, but a vessel for something much greater. Are we ready? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Toma, Jo, Juno, and Ellen nodded in unison. We've come this far. We can't go back, Toma said. And we wouldn't want to, Ellen added. Outside, the cosmic landscape had become a kaleidoscope of visions, past events, future possibilities, and infinite realities layered over one another in fractals of light and shadow. They had crossed into a new realm, one where the boundaries of space, time, and consciousness had no meaning. Halvorson turned back to the crew. We are not just passengers. We are part of this now. Suddenly, the voices reached a crescendo, and the transmission became one with them, not a separate entity, but a merger of their collective consciousness.